when Uhuru Kenyatta took over, actually he was the luckiest president because Kibaki had found an economy that was running at that was growing at a rate of 0.6, and he was able to take our economy up to 8.4. If it was not for coronavirus, if it was not for post-election violence, I think the Kenyan economy would have grown for double digits. This tells you, if you look at the graph of Kenya's growth, during Jomo Kenyatta's years, when Kibaki was the finance minister, Kenyatta was able to take the Kenya's economy to a peak of 22%. That was in 1971. Even Moi, people used to complain about Moi. Moi was able also to take Kenya to grow the economy even to a rate of 7.4. But Kenyatta has only managed 5%. So that makes Uhuru Kenyatta the worst performing president in the history of Kenya. Now, these economies are run by politicians. You cannot write a book just about the economics. There's also some politics because, for instance, chapter 4, when Uhuru was the leader of opposition, that was back in 2006, he went to parliament and accused Mwai Kibaki of political banditry. Actually, that was a word that he used. And if we are to use the same term on him, who between Kibaki and Uhuru is the real political bandit? Because as we speak now, Kenya is where we were in the 1980s. Right now, as we speak, we have cabinet ministers who have to buy newspapers in the morning to read what Murathe was talking about, to read what David Murathe is saying. That is what used to happen in the 1980s. There's a sinister plot against the youth in Kenya. Actually, it is like Jubilee administration cherry-picked the areas where they had promised the youth this or that. If you look at the Jubilee manifesto of 2013, there is no one promise. One, be it in sports, stadiums, be it in jobs, be it in everything. There is no one promise that was fulfilled by the Jubilee government for the youth. I cannot go to the details. They are here in the book. We have things like democracy. Let's talk about democracy for a while. Kenya is not a democracy. It was a democracy. It used to be a democracy. Kenya is an oligarchy. Kenya is a country where a few people have captured the state and they treat that state like their personal property. That is why we can collect 1.6 trillion. That is what we are collecting in taxes. But we are still borrowing because all the money is stolen. I have listed from 2013, the Auditor General himself, who works for Uhuru Kenyatta, cannot even trace where 7.2 trillion went to. Talk about borrowing. We are borrowing money, but we have a lot of money. In the first 50 years since independence, Kenya only borrowed 1.8. We had only our debt burden was 1.8 trillion. But in the last 6 years, we have managed to reach 7 trillion shillings. That is domestic. Because of borrowing, Kenyatta has borrowed 3.3 trillion externally and 3.3 trillion internally. You know, if I can just take you back to 2002, when Kibaki took over, he initiated some policies whereby he put a lid on domestic borrowing. And the banks were forced to put their, to give money to the poor, to give money to the people who could not afford, to give money to the people who could not afford to, offer collateral and those kind of stuff. Up to around 2012, in the whole country, there was no bank that did not have a table on the street. These were loan officers, you know, trying to entice people because the government was not borrowing much from the domestic market. That has been overturned. Right now, money is not circulating because the government is borrowing. It's borrowing too much, borrowing everything, leaving people without loans. I've also spoken, I've written also about the horrors of a militarized government, because we have never seen this kind of thing before, whereby the military is being put to the fore, running a meat factory, being a spokesman in State House, a colonel. And we have been told that the military is more disciplined, is more effective than these other people, civilians, which is not true. If you recall, the first time we saw soldiers, KDF, in action in Kenya's history on TV was when they were looting Westgate. Governed and actually generated by the presidency, together in the cabinet. And because we have to compare Uhuru with the others, we have to have some, you know, point of reference. Ajani mmoja kuja. Hello, nini kuja utuzimie hii nini? Hii yako itasikika kwa TV na si vizuri. Hawa wengine washafika town? Hebu muulize ako wapi? Ni kweli.
So, jana photojournalism in Kenya imerudi chini because of our...
Patia light, ile light uone kama nini. Atasimama wapi?
Atasimama hapa hivi. Hapa.
Ile mlango ingefungwa. Na kama kuna lock uweke. Funga hapo juu. The failed presidency is not about a person. He went up to almost 9%. Even Moi did 7% in 1986. Uhuru has 10,000 copies. No. The first 10,000 free. Nataka kuuza vitabu